Hi, and welcome back to our discussion on Gen 3. So, congratulations for finishing our midterm and welcome to our finals. So, for today, we will have our first lesson in Module 3, that is Introduction and Data Collection. So, for our finals, we will be discussing about business statistics and a lot more about it. So first and foremost, okay, so what is business statistics? So business statistics, it is actually described as the collection, summarization, analysis, and reporting of numerical findings relevant to a business decision or situation. So technically, this is more on data collection, summarization, analysis, and more on numerical value, graphs. So on this particular lesson, we will check out these topics. So as a business person, one may involve with statistics in at least one of the following ways. So it may be as a practitioner collecting, analyzing, and presenting findings based on statistical data, or it might be as a consumer of statistical claims and findings offered by others, some of whom may be either incompetent or unethical. So, descriptive statistics versus inferential statistics. So, statistics has its own jargon or terms beyond descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. So, this time, let's discuss what is descriptive and what is inferential. So, first is descriptive statistics summarizes the important characteristics of a known set of data. Like, for example, upon looking around the class, you may find that 35% of your fellow students are wearing Casio watches. And then that 35% there is actually the descriptive statistics. Now, on the other hand, inferential statistics uses sample data to make inferences about a population. It consists of generalizing from samples to populations, performing hypothesis testing, determining the relationships among variables, and making predictions. So, like for example, political pollsters are among the heavy users of inferential statistics, typically questioning between 1,000 to 2,000 voters in an effort to predict the voting behavior of millions of citizens on election day. So inferential statistics is commonly used when we do questioning or doing typical questions or survey questions among populations or sample of populations. So the key terms for inferential statistics, population. So population sometimes referred to as the universe. This is the entire set of people or objects of interest. So like for example, in a given study, a retailer may decide to refine customer as all those who enter her store between 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the next Wednesday. So populations, I'm pretty sure you have already been able to, you know, um, have this one on your researches last time, like in your high school days, junior and senior high school, because if I'm not mistaken, in K to 12, there are already researches. So this is part of that. Population is those respondents that you really wanted to question or have the survey questions. So like for example, in this example here, a store refers to, I mean, the store had its population or the customer as the ones who entered his or her store between 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every Wednesday. Okay, so we have also sample. If population is the whole group of people, sample is a smaller number, meaning from the population, you will just get samples. So sample is a smaller number, a subset of the people or objects that exist within the larger population. So a sample is said to be representative if its members tend to have the same characteristics. Like for example, voting preferences, shopping behavior, age, income, educational level. So it's the population from which they were actually selected. So example, the retailer on the first example may decide to select her sample by choosing every 10th person entering the store between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. On the next Wednesday. So instead of getting all the customers every day, the the retailer will just choose every 10th person na papasok dun sa store. So that would be the sample or the representative on that particular population. So next K terms is statistic. Well, statistics is measured characteristics of the sample. So the sample statistics can be a measure of typicalness or central tendency, such as the mean, median, mode, or proportion. Or it may be a measure of spread or dispersion, such as the range and standard deviation. So this names this particular terms here in statistics, the mean, median, mode, central tendency, the range, and standard deviation, these are always used when we do statistics. So like for example, a retailer may find that 73% of the sample members rate the store as having higher quality merchandise than the competitor across the street. So terms another K terms for inferential statistics is the parameter. Parameter is a numerical characteristics of the population. If we were to take a complete census of the population, the parameter could actually be measured. So this is closely impractical for most business research. So the purpose of the sample statistics is to estimate the value of their corresponding population parameter. Like for example, the sample mean is used to estimate the population mean. So typical parameters include the population mean, median, proportion, and standard deviation. So like for example, for a retailer, the actual percentage of the population who rate her store's merchandise as being of higher quality is unknown. This unknown quantity is the parameter in this case. However, she may use the sample statistics like 73% as an estimate of what this percentage would have been she taken the time, expense, and inconvenience to conduct a census of all customers on the day of the study. So we have here also types of variables. So it is important that you would know this two types of variables because this will be the variables that you will be using in creating a research. So first is qualitative variables. So qualitative variables, some of the variables associated with people or objects are qualitative in nature. So indicating that the person or object belongs in a category. While some qualitative variables have only two categories, others may have three or more. So qualitative variables, also referred to as attributes, typically involve counting how many people or objects fall into each category. So in qualitative variables, it is commonly in research, qualitative variables are being used when we do qualitative research. Like, for example, this referred to as attributes. So it is not really on numerical values. So qualitative doesn't use numerical value, but instead it would use categories, attributes. Most commonly, questions that are being used in this particular research or business research are answerable, but I mean questions that are that it's actually like free questions. Like, for example, it cannot be answered by yes or no, or the respondent will answer based on their experiences. So in qualitative variable, examples are: first, you are either male or female, or you have either consumed dad's root beer within the past week, or you have not. A third, your next television set will be either um, colored or black and white. And then last is your hair is likely to be brown, black, red, blonde, or gray. So in qualitative variables, in expressing results involving qualitative variables, we describe the percentage or the number of persons or objects falling into each of the possible categories. Like, for example, we may find that 35% of the grade school children interviewed recognized a photograph of Ronald McDonald, while 65% do not. So likewise, some of the children may have eaten a Big Mac hamburger or are at one time or another, while others have not. So next is the quantitative variable. Quantitative variables enables us to determine how much of something is possessed, not just whether it is possessed. So like, for example, in quantitative, there are two types of quantitative variables: discrete and continuous. So in discrete quantitative variables, it can take on only certain values along an interval, with the possible values having gaps between them. Discrete variables in business statistics usually consist of observations that we can count and often have integer values. So fractional values are also possible. However, the distinguishing feature of discrete variable is that gaps exist between the possible values. So like, for example, in observing the number of gallons of milk that shoppers buy during a trip to a US supermarket, the possible values will be 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, 1, 1.25, 1.5, and so on. And that's it. Next is the continuous quantitative variables. It can take on value at any point along an interval. So example, the volume of liquid in a water tower could be any quantity between 0 and its capacity when full. At a given moment, there might be 325, 125 gallons, 325, 25.41 gallons, or even 325, 125, 0.413927 gallons. So depending on the accuracy with which the volume can be measured. So we have here the nominal scale. So the nominal scale uses numbers only for the purpose of identifying membership in a group or category. Aside from identification, these numbers have no arithmetic meaning. So like, for example, in nominal scale, Entergy Corporation lists 4 types of domestic electric customers. So 13 in its computer records, the company might use 1 to identify residential customers, 2 for commercial customers, 3 for industrial customers, and 4 for government customers. So meaning the numbers there, or the numbers in nominal scale, does not mean typically the number itself. So number is just being used to identify the categories of people or group people or whatnot. So like, for example, in this Energy Corporation. So they have categorized the customers from the residential, commercial, industrial, and government. And instead of using the commercial, residential, or the word itself, they use instead numbers like 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the ordinal scale. So in ordinal scale, the ordinal scale numbers represents greater than or less than measurements such as preferences or rankings. So third is the interval scale. So in the interval scale, it does not only includes greater than and less than relationship, but also has a unit of measurement that permits us to describe how much more or less one object possesses than another. So in questionnaire, items like the following business research practitioners typically treat the data or interval scale since the same physical and numerical distances exist between alternatives. So like for example, in this one, on the bottom part, as you can see here, its Kmart prices are like for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1 is the lowest interval, while the 4 to 5 or the 5 is the higher interval. So next is the ratio scale. The ratio scale is similar to the interval scale but has an absolute zero and multiples are meaningful. So like for example, in election votes, natural gas consumption, return on investment, and the speed of production line. All right, so that would be the end of our lesson in introduction and data collection.